Rock on Uncivil Revolt. BMAC is on Skype, and boy, am I in for a treat as well as you. I'm going to be talking with probably one of the most revered guitar players in rock today. He's in a group called the Dead Daisies, and before that, he was actually with Whitesnake and his own group, The Burning Rain. And Dead Daisies just put out their newest album, Holy Ground, which you probably read about and that I love because he got to perform with Glenn Hughes, so that's always a bonus for me. So please tell me the guy who has just a lion's mane for hair and can shred that Les Paul like no other, Mr. Doug Aldrich. How you doing, Doug?
I'm good, Brandon. Thanks for having me on. How are you?
I'm doing well. I am still working ever since this pandemic hit, so I haven't lost my job, so I'm thankful for that. How about you? How you been doing?
I've been able to keep working at home a little bit, juggling, waiting with it like everybody else for this to get free to tour. That's what we're up to now. We've got this new album that's just out, Holy Ground. We're really excited about it. We've been grateful that we've been getting some amazing reviews, and we just want to get out and play it. So that's what we're hoping
Hey,
for later this year.
I want you to get out and play because I love what I heard.
Thank you, man. Yeah, and with Glenn, he really brought a beautiful vibe to the band. His songwriting, we wrote together. His lyrics are awesome, and he's a ferocious bass player.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it's been it's been perfect. With the exception of the pandemic, we we've been very lucky and blessed to work with him and get him in the band.
Yeah. We'll get into your time with Glenn in a little bit. My first question what? How did you be? What made you decide to pick up a guitar and start playing?
I heard. Well, I used to listen to the radio in the car. I didn't. I had a little mono radio in my room, and and then in the car we would listen to the rock radio, and there would be stuff like Smoke on the Water and Purple Haze was out. There was even Iron Man, the song Iron Man by Black Sabbath was on the radio, and then stuff like Eagles and Allman Brothers and stuff like that. And I just loved the sound of the guitar, but I didn't really think about playing it until one year in the summertime. My little sister had a classical guitar, and all my friends, the friends that I would hang out with, we'd skateboard and do sports and stuff. Everybody was away for summer vacation or camp or whatever, and I had nothing to do. I was just remember being really bored. It was a hot summer day, and I thought I'm going to try to play that guitar. And so I got her she had a classical guitar, and I she had a book, and I picked it up and learned a D chord, and then I learned an A chord, and then an E chord, and I was playing guitar that day, and I thought this is really cool. It was like the greatest feeling to actually make some music just out of nothing, and I got hooked, and I'm still hooked. I still feel the same when I pick up a guitar. I'm trying to learn more things. I see people that inspire me all the time, so it's been a great journey.
Yeah, I can hear the enjoyment and the excitement and the passion that you put into your riffs, whatever project that you'll be doing. So obviously, it's never gotten old for you, and it never will get old for you.
No, it's because I'm not a master. I mean, when you master something, maybe you can go, okay, it's not a challenge anymore. But it is for me. It's a challenge. I really have to work hard, and during during the time of being home, you would think like, okay, well, most people are able to really spend a lot of time practicing and stuff. But it's only when I'm away from home that I really can, because I've got a family, I've got other distractions, so I have to force myself to find an hour to practice every day, or a couple hours if possible.
Yeah, of course. That's always important. So let's talk about the brand new Dead Daisies album, Holy Ground.
Yeah.
This is this album is actually, if I remember correctly, this is your sixth one with the group because you actually joined back in 2015 on Make Some Noise. So, how would you compare Holy Ground to the other releases you've done with this group?
Holy Ground is it's a fresh start. It's brand new direction, but still with flavors of the original Daisies. I'll tell you that's how that happens is you get anytime you change lead singers, you're going to get a new sound. There's no way about it, but no way to change that fact. What a lot of bands do is they have a set sound and they change singers and they want to keep the sound and they're writing the same. But I think in our situation, we really wanted to try some new things. You know, when you got the voice of rock coming in, there's nothing he can't do. You know, he can sing anything, and he brings a real like heavy melodic soulfulness to the band. We always we've always been trying to go for like a 70s type of sound, but Glenn was doing it live. He was doing it for real in the 70s as a young man, and he brings more of that to the band. So I would describe Holy Ground as being heavy, groovy, deep, soulful, and a fresh start.
Yeah, you can definitely hear the soul and the R&B influences that Glenn likes to bring into his music because he grew up on that sound. Was there any particular song that you liked working on with him in particular?
Yeah, all of them. They were all. It was all really good. I mean, what happened is management. We were John Corabi left the band at the end of 2018. He wanted to focus on some solo stuff. It was totally amicable. And Marco was doing his solo stuff. Marco's an amazing bass player, amazing singer, and a larger than life personality. And so we didn't want to try and replace those guys with the same thing. So I didn't even think about Glenn. I've known Glenn for years. We've been buddies, but management had reached out and talked to him, and they called me and said, "We're talking to Glenn, and he's into it." I'm like, "Glenn Hughes?" And they're like, "Yeah." I thought that'd be amazing. Glenn that's like the perfect thing to just take a huge left turn and go into some new uncharted territory. And they said, "We'll call him." So I did, and Glenn said, "Doug, it's time for you and I to make some music. We should do it now with the Dead Daisies." And I'm like, "This is freaking great." So immediately I started working on well, he said, "Hey, and I've also got some ideas to bring in." And I go, "Cool. Me and David have been writing. We've got some stuff." But now that's when I talked to Glenn and he confirmed he was coming in. Then I started to focus on things specifically for Glenn. And he co-wrote everything. He either brought in songs that were finished, like a song like My Fate or Far Away. And then we co-wrote a bunch of stuff like No Other and Chosen and Justified and Come Alive and Bustle and Flow. Bustle and Flow is interesting because we were, normally there was a couple songs that we wrote and we finished off together, like Come Alive. Come Alive, I had a riff and a verse part. I didn't have a chorus, but Glenn came up with the chorus right away, and it was really cool. And then Bustle and Flow, David and I had come up with a bunch of parts for it, and we were arranging it, but we couldn't get a chorus. And I said, "Glenn, we need a chorus." And Glenn, we tried everything. It just wasn't happening. And eventually, I said to the producer, Ben Gross, and management, that song's not going to work. They said, "What's up with that song? With the riff, and I go, it's not coming together. I don't think it's going to happen. We can't force it. A singer needs to feel. He needs to be into the music, and he's not. We're not getting a chorus out of it." And they said, "You should go back and keep going because we really like that." So I went back to David and Glenn, and I don't remember who came up with it, but somebody came up with some chords where there was a stop, and then Glenn started singing something, and it was like, "That's it. That's the chorus." So it was fun to work on everything with Glenn. Music just flows through him. That was the only stumbling block we had, that one song.
Huh. My particular favorite song is the second track, like no other, because it's that really groovy bass line
Yeah,
that he
man.
puts in there. Did he write that riff before coming into the group, or did he write it specifically for the song?
He um he wrote it for the song. He well, actually I that was the first song I wrote with Glenn in mind because I knew he liked um he loves heavy grooves. I don't know if you know, but we had toured together in 2015 before I joined the Dead Daisies, and I know Glenn really well, and so when I started thinking about that simple groove, and then I thought about, okay, we do this turn going into the verse, and then have Glenn lay out, and I kind of envisioned the whole thing. Like Glenn would be singing, I'll hold down the groove, and David will hit the passing chords, and then when the chorus hits, the bass comes in heavy, and it's like happening. And so I had a bass line that was similar. Glenn just made it his own, during the song. But it's a really simple song, and I probably would never have presented that to the Dead Daisies before because I wouldn't have never have said to Marco, "Hey, why don't you just stop playing during the verse?" And I wouldn't say that to him. But with Glenn being the singer, I could envision, I could almost feel, I could see Glenn with his arms out singing that song, and I didn't even know what the song was going to be about. And he just said he started singing like no other, but then he needed a tagline in between, and we were jamming it live, and he started singing "Can You Feel My Bass Line?" And it was like and I had planned a bass solo in that song, so I said, after it's a simple song, it gets there pretty quick after the kind of guitar break. Um, we should do like a section where it's just bass and drums where you go off. And he didn't really know what he was going to play. He just kind of went for it. And that the take that the track that I should say, the performance that we took on drums is the performance that he played on bass that went with those drums. And that's the bass solo in one take. It was really cool.
Yeah, it was a really cool bass line. I really loved it. Obviously there was a recent announcement that Dean, your drummer, actually left the group for minor back surgery, and now you got Ozzy's guy Tommy Kalufto was coming in to perform with
Tommy
you
Cliffetos,
guys.
yeah. Tommy is, well, first of all, Dean told me, I'm like, what? Come on, what are you talking about? And he's like, dude, I got to get this sorted out. And I'm like, well, you get it sorted out and come back. He goes, but I've also been working on this other project where I'm singing more, and I really want to do that. And I don't know when we're going to be touring or doing anything, anyways. I don't want to. And so we said, you got it. Um, do your thing, man. And so Tommy Cliffetos had been in the Dead Daisies before, so they rang up Tommy to see if he was available, and he was, and he was into it. And man, I can't even imagine. Tommy's pound for pound right now, probably not in literal terms, but he's a heavy freaking drummer. His sound is big, and I can't wait to play these songs with him. He's going to bring so much to it, that especially because he's got that British feel to his drumming. Like Bonham, or he's been playing Bill Ward stuff with Tony Iommi, and Glenn's worked with Tony Iommi and Sabbath. So there's already a chemistry that I think is going to be there right from the get go.
Oh, well, I can't wait to hear him perform with you guys because I actually saw him a bunch of times with Ozzy, and he got to perform with Sabbath during their 2013 tour. And I thought it would have been better if Bill Ward was in there, to be honest. But I love Tommy. I love what he does.
Tommy he's he's a monster.
Yes, he is, no doubt.
Yeah.
Uh, and for people that also remember, you actually did some albums with both Dio, Whitesnake, and Revolution Saints. I got to ask you, between all these different projects that you have going on over the years and still today,
Sorry.
oh no, thank. It's always nice to have that little nugget in there. But between those bands, do you always know going in like what kind of riffs you're gonna be performing for each album or for each group?
I basically I just write, and if something, I mean, up until um, 2014, when I basically stepped out of Whitesnake. I had a 4-year-old son at home. I needed to be a dad. I was 1,000% for Whitesnake, and I loved it. I loved every minute of it. It was about a almost 12 years I was with the band. We recorded 2 albums and a couple live albums and a couple DVDs. We were really busy, but I only did Whitesnake. I turned down lots of session calls. I just couldn't do them. I didn't have time. And when I got out of Whitesnake, I started getting all these offers to do stuff, and I was able to do them. I had time to do it. One of them was Dean Castronova wanted to make a solo record, and so the record company called me and said, Dean called me. I met Dean. Journey and Whitesnake did some touring together in Europe a lot over the years, and we got to be friends. And he said the record company wants me to do an album, and I want you to play guitar, and I want to get Jack Blades on bass. And I said, great, I'll help you. No, I'd be into it, And the songs were already there. So I was just doing a session, but then the record company decided to call it a band name, but it wasn't really a band. We never toured. We couldn't. We were all busy doing other things. And then they wanted us to make another record and another record over the years. And it's all good, but that I would specifically write in that vein. But everything else that I would write is kind of just what I think sounds cool. Is the same thing I wrote with Ronnie could have been a Whitesnake song, could be a Dead Daises song or whatever. I just write, and I kind of always present things to the singer because that's the guy, like I said earlier, he's the guy that's got to be into it. So I presented Glenn or David Coverdale with ideas, and if he liked it, we'd work on it, and if he didn't, I'd move on. I just write. I just keep like I love to sit in my studio here in the morning with a cup of coffee and just play guitar, and then if I get it, even if I'm not in the studio, even in my car driving, I get a riff in my head, I'll just hum it into my phone or whatever, and then I can learn it on guitar later. But everything I write is just coming from what I think seems like it sounds cool, and then I'll present it to the singer I'm working with and see if he hears anything.
That's awesome to hear. Between the 2 albums that you've done with Whitesnake, Good to Be Bad and Forevermore, which album did you enjoy making more?
I mean, they were both great, but I gotta say, Good to Be Bad, because it was the first thing that Whitesnake had really done proper in like 10 years or longer. Yeah, I guess about 10 years. And they did Restless Heart in '97, and then the band went back on hiatus for a while. David had a son, so he kind of put the band on hiatus, and then put the band back together for basically 2-month tour in 2003, and then it just kept going. And then I started writing with him, and Good to Be Bad was really exciting I really put everything I had into that, and we got on a roll, man. It was just incredible. Like, it was in this room. I was sitting right where I'm sitting right now, and David was singing, and I started playing the title track riff to him, and he started, singing, and it was just like the hair on the back of my neck would stand up every time, he would sing. And so it was great. And then Forevermore was great too. It was a lot of fun, but the first one that we did together is probably the main thing. Nobody expected us to do a record, and then we came up with a record that I felt really good about. That's all you can do, is write what you think makes you feel good, and hopefully other people will too.
Absolutely. Me personally, I go with Forevermore only because it was my introduction to your guitar playing. And when I heard the song Love Will Set You Free, I was just so in love with it. And the way you were handling the riffs that complemented David's vocals on that song, and I was like, holy shit, who is this guy? How have I not heard of him before?
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. It's kind of just something that I would say David started. I'm going to tell you a little story that was. David is the guy that had, he had the for Fool for Your Lovin', and this chord right here. These are minor 7 chords, and we use them in, I use them all the time. We use them in the Dead Daises as well. But David on Fool for Your Lovin' turned me onto that chord. I had never known what a 7th chord, and there was a band called Slade that they had a song called "Lock Up Your Daughters" that also had that kind of thing. So I always would mess around with, this minor 7 thing. So "Good to Be Bad" was.
Oh,
That is a minor 7 riff. So I give David credit for that, hipping me to that back when I first heard "Fool for Your Lovin'," which was a friend of mine turned me on to it before Whitesnake was really kind of popular in the U.S. the way that they got. And then, but we never played "Good to Be Bad" live, and I love that thing. It's a Whitesnake thing, but it's also something I've done a lot with that chord. So then I felt like if I did something like that again, but made it in a more appropriate key live. So I moved it down a whole step, and same chord, right?
yeah.
Good to Be Bad is, and this is.
Yeah, you can hear the subtle differences in there.
Right, but it's the same. It's subtle differences, but it's a groovy thing that So anyway, it's something that I really enjoy, and so I try to incorporate that all the time. I mean, not every song, of course, but once in a while. And so with David, it was just "Love Will Set You Free" came about because I wanted to play it live, and he made it into such a catchy song that it became the first single.
Yeah, what a good song it was. It really introduced me to you, and that it was because of that I ended up getting Burning Rain's album Epic Obsession, which was a great album, by the
Oh,
way.
thanks, man.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was. I did that on weekends while I was in Whitesnake. I'd be up at David's working on Forevermore, and then I'd fly home on Friday night to be with my family, and then I'd put my son to bed and come in the studio here and work on Burning Rain until Monday morning. I'd fly out back to David's. That was the only thing. I take it back. I tell a lie because I said I didn't do anything when I was in Whitesnake, but that's the one thing I did. It was a contractual obligation that I needed to do, and I wanted to do it anyway. But I'm back now full circle with the Dead Daisies because it's really a band thing. I don't want to do a lot of different things because the original thing that you brought up was that with all these things, do I write differently? And I don't really write differently. I just write, and I let the singer decide what he wants to work on. And so I presented, when this Holy Ground album, I presented songs and riffs and whatever to Glenn to see what would stick. And he kind of led the way. So I like being the right hand man or the left hand, whatever.
yeah. You're the consigliere to the front man.
Yeah, I mean, look, I Glenn is legendary, and
Oh, you don't have to tell me twice.
yeah. So I want to make him the same way I did with John. I wanted to make I think John is he's an amazing front man. He's a great guitar player, songwriter, singer, and when he would do a show, John would make the audience feel like it was like his own backyard barbecue, and you were invited. That's how he made the audience feel. Very, very down to earth. Glenn is a totally different animal. Glenn's like larger than life. He's like his chops as a singer and a bass player are just unbelievable. So he kind of mesmerizes, and They're both. It's. I've been very lucky, so I just present them, try to help them, try to build a soft bed for these guys to sleep in.
Yeah. And Glenn, here's this is the reason I actually play with an orange amp when I play bass.
Very cool.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
love how it sound. I love how the sound and the trebles and the bass sound come out of that amp. Then it just resonates with my bass. I love how it sounds. And I was like,
yeah,
okay, now I know why Glenn goes with it.
yeah, man. Well, it's a great company. I mean, that's like a family business. Same way Marshall started as a family business, and they make great products, British, great stuff. And then and David Lowy works with David Lowy's got a Friedman BE100 that is a killer amp. I don't know if you've played with those at all, but it's a great company. Dave Friedman builds these. David Lowy's guitar sound is the biggest guitar sound I've ever been around. It's massive with that thing, and that's something I wanted to mention too. That about when you said, how would I describe this album? The thing that ties it into the Dead Daisies is David Lowy's simplistic, bombastic playing. That's what he does, man. It's like he's got a punk rock spirit to his playing. It's that that Australian water, that he drank when he was a
Yeah.
kid. And it adds there's that flavor on the album. So it's not like, it's a really good mix of Glenn bringing a fresh sound, us writing stuff more specifically with Glenn, or Glenn bringing stuff, and then David keeping it real in the Dead Daisies sound.
Yes, definitely. Okay, we got time for a couple more quick questions. So, Doug, you're stranded on a desert island. To keep yourself from going insane, what would be the three albums that you would bring with you?
Hmm, that's so hard to pick just three, but I would say Led Zeppelin, Physical Graffiti, because it's a double album and it's got everything covered. It's got great ballads, it's got acoustic stomps, it's got trippy songs that you could, close your eyes and trip out on, and it's got heavy stuff. It's got Kashmir. So that would be one. So that's only going to count as one album though, even though it's a double album.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. And then I will say, this is going to probably sound weird, but I'm going to say Jeff Beck, Blow by Blow. And I would say that because it's got, you're not always in the mood to rock. Sometimes you want to chill out, and it's got different grooves to it. It covers a lot of different stuff. It's fusiony, but it's also got beautiful melodies. And sometimes you don't want to hear, I say this lightly, but sometimes you don't need to hear a vocal. You just want to hear the guitar talk. And that album
Yeah.
is one of my biggest favorite albums ever. And lastly, mm, uh, maybe I would say, um, because it reminds me when I was a kid, Rainbow on Stage, another double album live with Richie Blackmore on guitar and Ronnie singing his ass off. So I would say that those three.
Those are some really good choices, and you can't go wrong with Glenn Beck ever.
With Jeff Beck, yeah,
Jeff Beck. I'm
yeah.
sorry.
No,
Yes.
you're thinking
Well,
of
there
Glenn.
goes my chance. There goes my chance of interviewing him.
No, you never
Well,
know. You might.
yeah, I would say for me, my albums would probably be Pearl Jam's 10, because I just resonated with how they were able to just get all that raw, concentrated passion. And you just, whenever you're feeling low, you'll listen to it, and they capture the essence of being low and lift your spirits up from it.
Yeah,
And they tell great stories off that album.
yeah, they do.
Uh, Second one, probably Led Zeppelin 2, because Ramble On, Moby Dick, Whole Lot of Love. Can't get more perfect than that.
Heartbreaker.
Oh, Heartbreaker. Yes. Can't go wrong with Heartbreaker. And finally, my last one. My list always changes just depending on the mood I'm in. But I would probably go with, in honor of Eddie Van Halen, I would probably go with. It's a tie between either Van Halen 2 or For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge.
Really?
I
Okay.
always loved For Unlawful Carnal
I do
Knowledge. I thought
too.
it was a great album.
I do too. But you're
It
going
gets
to
overlooked so many times. I don't
no.
know
I
why.
no. I love that album. That was produced by Andy Johns. That was a really cool album. And but I'm just going because you're going with a Sammy era and a Dave era albums, and so they're kind of like total. For me, it's like a fresh start, like the Dead Daises thing. I'm glad you brought up Eddie Van Halen because I should have picked in you know instead of one of those. I gotta go with Jeff Beck, Blow by Blow. I gotta go with Zeppelin,
Sure,
and
obviously.
I Rainbow Alive. I love it, but Van Halen for Van Halen for Women and Children First. No, not Women. What's the fourth album called? Space and
I'm spacing on it too.
uh,
What was it?
you
I
know,
think it's. I think
Mean Streets is on it, but
I know which. I have this album. I should know this.
I can't even believe I'm so embarrassed. It's called. It's not Women and Children First. That's the third album.
Fair warning.
Fair Warning. Damn it, Brandon, you beat me to it.
Yeah, that's right. Fair warning. You can't go wrong with that. Fair warning's great.
Is the that's that minor seven chord right there. You know that sound.
I know. And as soon as you hear like Unchained, that dun 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 dun, dun, and you know that the stage is going to explode with excitement.
Man, you say it, and you know what else was cool? I saw I saw Van Halen when I was a kid 3 times. I saw him on the second tour. That was the first time I ever saw him. I didn't even know who we were going to see, and we just would go to concerts because they were like $6. And
oh, you lucky bastard!
Yeah, $6 to go, and it was general admission. So as a kid, you'd get in line, they'd open the doors, and you'd blast through as fast as you could and run down the stairs and run to the front of the stage and try to muscle your way up there. And that's what we did. And Eddie came out and just smoked my ass. He blew me away so bad. And it's only happened that hardcore with Eddie, Randy Rhoads, and Gary Moore. Those were the 3 times I walked out of this performance going unbelievable. I mean, Stevie Ray Vaughan was amazing. Jeff Beck was amazing always. But those guys, it's just like it screwed with my head, you know?
Yeah.
And, but yeah, so Eddie came out, and then I saw him on the next tour. It was Women and Children First in 1980. And then 81 was Fair Warning. That was the last time I saw them for a long time. But man, what an album! And at the end of that album, they got the One Foot Out the Door, and the other song, Sunday Afternoon. I forget what it's called, but it's like Eddie playing on a guitar, like a synthesizer. Just
One Foot Out the Door and Sunday Afternoon in the Park.
Sunday Afternoon in the Park. They did those live, and it was so cool, man. I'd never seen anything like that. He was always an innovator, Eddie, you know, so it was just like, but yeah, God bless that kid. He went way too soon, for sure.
Yeah, he was. I actually had the good fortune of seeing them live in 2012. My only time seeing them, but even at that age, Eddie was healthy, he was sober, and he was kicking ass on the guitar. And that whole show, I was just still mesmerized by his playing. And you know what? I say, damn the people who said, A Different Kind of Truth was just a recycled collection of songs that he wrote in the 70s but didn't put out. I was like, you know what? They're new to us. We never heard them.
I love it. I love that album.
I loved that album.
I only because of the early days, the sound that Eddie created. they of course he wants to. Everybody's chasing their tone. They want to find something new that gets them off. So Eddie got a great tone on it, and always had a great tone. But I still, it was fair warning that I thought was like the perfect, and that was cool that you saw them with Dave, because a lot of people a lot of people only saw him with Sammy, which was great. But it was always my memories of seeing Van Halen come out. I mean, at that time, I had never seen somebody stack up their amps, their Marshall cabinets 3 high. So it was like he had 3 high by 6 across. So the curtain goes, the lights go down, and people are going crazy. I'm like, who are these guys? I had never heard one song by Van Halen. And the curtain opens up, and I look and I see the speakers are exposed. So there's 6 by 18 times 4 speakers. They're uncovered. I can't do the math right now, and I was just like, wow. And then Eddie did this. He made this sound like one of those things.
Yeah.
And it was the loudest thing. He just did that type to just check his guitar, make sure it was working. And I was like, holy effing. And he came out. They came out with Light Up the Sky, and man, I was stunned. I'll never forget it.
Yeah. And funny thing.
And then seeing Randy Rhoads later was like the next time I felt like it was 1981. It was like, maybe this guy's just as good as Eddie. He's just different. It was like these California guitar players coming out that were like smoking.
Yeah. And funny thing, that week when I saw Van Halen, a couple days prior, I actually saw Sammy Hagar's group Chickenfoot. So in a way, I saw all the members of Van Halen that entire week, with the exception of Gary Cherone.
Right.
Yeah.
Which he was a member. Yep. I didn't get.
And he gets overlooked. And he gets overlooked a lot because I wasn't a huge fan of Van Halen 3, but listening to it now, it was different. But he had the range of both Sammy and David. I mean, he was the best of both worlds. It's just too bad. If anything, that album was ahead of its time.
Yeah, I didn't hear it enough. I need to go back and revisit that album.
Same here.
There's some albums that I'd listen to a little bit and then I would just move on. But it's a great album, anyways. And I agree with you. Gary Schroen's a killer singer. I just saw him.
But my photographer's favorite group is Extreme, so he's like in love with Nico and with Gary.
Well, I saw them for the first time play last year, about a year ago. There was this Monsters of Rock cruise, and man, they were so on fire. It was insane. Gary Schroen, brilliant. Nuno, brilliant. Pat Badger is a friend of mine from years and years. I remember Pat Badger. He was in L.A. I don't know what he was doing. I think he had a friend he was dating here, and he played me. We got to be friends, and he played me More Than Words. He goes, "Hey, I want to play you something, see what you think." Before it came out, on a cassette, and he played it. He goes, "What do you think?" And I'm like, "Dude, that's like beautiful. That's like." He goes, "You don't think it's too different?" I'm like, "I don't know. I mean, it's a beautiful song. It sounds great. People are going to probably freak out when they hear that."
Yeah.
And they did.
Yeah, I bet they did. Well, hey, Doug, I know you got some more interviews coming your way, so I just want to say thank you very much for talking with Uncivil Revolt. I'm glad we got the chance, and this was actually one of the best musical conversations I've had with any artist, recently.
Thank you, bro. I really appreciate it. I appreciate your help in spreading the word about Holy Ground. We're very excited about the album, and we've got videos out for a couple of the songs, Bustle and Flow, Unspoken, and Holy Ground just came out in December, so people can check that out on YouTube and whatever, and just keep posted on the Dead Daises socials so that you can find out when we actually are going to hit the road.
Yeah, and hopefully you guys will come down to Anaheim because I need a party with you guys.
Well, I don't know. There are U.S. dates that are on the books. I've seen them, and L.A. is on there, but I don't know about Anaheim. But
well, I'll still go to L.A. regardless.
All right, brother. Thank you so much. All the best.
Yeah.
Stay healthy, and have a good spring. And I'll see you as soon as possible.
Yeah, definitely. And really quick, Doug, before you go, can you give us a little lick, just a little thing?
Yeah, so
I got to get
this
my that
volume.
metal moment. I got to get my metal show moment in. So give us a little something. Wow, goosebumps! Literally goosebumps.
I looked up and I noticed you couldn't even see the guitar, so that was kind of awkward. But
You know
I
what? The
love.
sound is all I needed.
Yeah, this is I'm stuck on the front pickup because this is a guitar I just got last year. My wife was like, how come we're always running low on cash? I'm like, I don't know, babe. It's like,
There's your proof.
I was stuck in quarantine and I was looking online and I found this. It's a '68. It had been refinished, but it looks good. But I want a guitar that's been messed with so I can get it for half price because I wanted to do a couple refret it and everything. But the volume knob, the original volume knob, is stuck. It just stuck before this interview. So I'm stuck on the front pickup for a minute. I'm gonna get some hopefully some pot cleaner and get that thing fixed. But this is not part of the interview. I appreciate what you're talking about, the Dead Daises, spreading the word for them. Check it out. Hope you guys dig it. And thank you, Brandon.
Thank you, Doug. And you stay safe as well. And I'll see you on the road once again.
All right, brother. All the best, man.
All right. Peace out.
You too.